This tiny tart is a national treasure of Portugal, but it started somewhere unexpected, inside a monastery kitchen over 300 years ago. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make this Portuguese tart at home in your own kitchen. But first we're going to dive into a little bit of its history and see why this is one of the most secret recipes in the entire world. So let's get into it. Back in the 18th century, monks at the Geronimo Monastery in Belém would use egg whites to starch their clothes, leaving them with a lot of leftover egg yolks. But wasting that kind of food just wasn't an option for them. So they started baking, and out came these sweet golden custard pastries, later known as Pastel de Belém. But even before they got that famous name, the monks tried to keep the monastery running by selling these pastries at a nearby sugar refinery, but it just wasn't enough. The monastery eventually closed in the 1830s, and they sold their secret recipe to the owners of that same sugar refinery. Those owners eventually opened Fábrica de Pastéis de Belém in 1837, and their descendants still run it today. And that original recipe is locked away in a secret room, and only a few pastry chefs actually know it. So how are Portuguese bakeries covered in these little tarts? Well, people started experimenting, guessing what went in the secret filling, and soon bakeries everywhere created their own versions. But only the originals can be called Pastel de Belém. Everyone else has to call it Pastel de Nata. And here's how you can make it at home. For the dough, you'll need all-purpose flour, ice water, and salted European butter. You can also skip making this from scratch and just buy store-bought puff pastry instead. Now for the custard, you'll need all-purpose flour, a pinch of salt, water, whole milk in 2 parts, zest peel from half a lemon, sugar, vanilla extract or paste, a cinnamon stick, and beaten egg yolks. This recipe will make about 24 pastiches in a regular muffin tin. If you only want to make 12, or if you're using a mini muffin tin, check out the link in the description for the adjusted measurements. We'll start by making the dough. Set up your mixer bowl with a dough hook, then dump in the flour and water and let this run for about a minute, just until a smooth and sticky dough forms. Turn this out onto a lightly floured surface and shape it into a square. Dust it with flour and then cover it loosely with some plastic wrap. We'll let this rest for about 15 minutes at room temperature. Now that it's ready, we'll uncover the dough and roll it out into an 18-inch square. Make sure to dust underneath it with some flour as you go, as it loves to stick to the surface. Using 1/3 of your butter and an offset spatula, dot and spread it all around the left 2/3 of your dough, making sure you leave a 1-inch border unbuttered around the edges. Now we're going to do a letter fold. So take that unbuttered third of the dough and fold it over the middle. Then fold the left side covered in butter on top of that. Don't forget to pinch all of your edges to seal them off. Now this can get a little messy, but that's perfectly okay. This dough is very forgiving. Now rotate the dough so the folded edge is facing you, and then roll it out again to an 18-inch square. And we're going to repeat this whole process again. So dust the underside of your dough, spread the butter, fold it, and pinch it off. Same process. Now this time we're going to roll it out to an 18 by 20-inch rectangle, and spread all of the remaining butter all over it, including that 1-inch edge. Now starting from the shorter side of the rectangle, start to tightly roll the dough into a log. Make sure to wipe off any of that excess flour that's still hanging on as you roll it. Cut this log in half, and then we're going to wrap each piece in plastic wrap. Chill these in the fridge for at least 2 hours. Now let's make the custard filling. In a heat-proof bowl, whisk together the flour, first portion of milk, and salt until it's smooth. Set this aside. Now grab a saucepan and add in the sugar, water, cinnamon stick, and lemon peel. Set this over medium-high heat and bring it up to 220 degrees Fahrenheit, and make sure you do not stir it. Once it hits temperature, immediately take it off the burner and set it aside. Then grab another saucepan and pour the remaining milk into it. Set this over medium heat and take it off just as it begins to simmer. Grab your bowl with the flour mixture in it and begin whisking it. Now slowly pour in that hot milk as you continue to whisk. Get your pot with the sugar syrup in it and remove the cinnamon and lemon peel from it. Now take this over to your flour and milk mixture and slowly start whisking it in the same way you did with the hot milk. Once that's incorporated, whisk in your vanilla and then check the temperature of the mixture. This should be warm to the touch, not hot. If yours is hot, then let it continue to sit at room temperature until it cools down a bit. Once it is warm, whisk in your egg yolks the same way you did everything else. Pour all of this custard through a sieve to get out any of those overcooked or bigger bits. Then put a piece of plastic wrap directly on the custard surface so it doesn't create a hardened layer. And I always add an extra piece of plastic wrap over the top of the bowl just to make sure air doesn't get in. Set this aside at room temperature to cool down. Once your dough logs have rested at least 2 hours, you're ready to bake. Adjust your oven rack to the middle position. If you happen to be using a tabletop oven like I am, then move the rack to a bottom position instead. Preheat your oven to 480 degrees Fahrenheit. Prep your muffin pan by spraying it with grease or rubbing it down with some butter. Now take a dough log from the fridge and let it rest at room temperature for about 8 minutes. While it rests, keep your oven running. This ensures that your oven stays at a consistent high temperature and will cook the pastry properly. Back to the dough. Using the palm of your hand, roll the dough out to about 14 inches long and 1 inch thick. Trim off the edges and slice this into 12 equal discs. Then, to create the pastry shell, put one of the discs into the muffin tin. Dip your thumb or knuckle into some water and then press it down into the center of the disc. Gently spread the dough up and outward as you rotate it. You want to create a thin bottom and then a raised lip just about 1/8 of an inch above the pan. Just be careful not to puncture the dough, and if you do, you can gently push a little dough over the hole to cover it up. Now get your custard, give it a little stir, and then transfer it to an easy to pour device. I'm using a measuring cup here. Fill each pastry cup about 3/4 full. Pop this into the oven for about 13 to 14 minutes until the edges of your pastry start to brown. Then keep them in the oven, switch your setting to a broil, and leave this in for about 1 to 2 minutes. Take it out as soon as you see those signature caramelized spots forming on top. Let these cool slightly before serving, but they are best served warm, with a dusting of powdered sugar and cinnamon. And don't forget about that second log in the fridge. You can make a whole nother batch, or you can save it in the fridge for later. More details on how you can do that below. These pastiches are truly perfection in 2 bites. Now you can try Pastel de Nata, even if you can't quite make that flight to Lisbon. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe and enjoyed learning a little bit more about where the pastry even comes from. And leave a comment below if you have anything like this pastry in your hometown. See you guys next time!